I'm calling your church to test to see if they would help feed a starving baby. And I had a lot of requests to call another mega church. So I'm calling Abundant Church West in El Paso, Texas. So we are going to call to see if they would help feed a starving baby.
Good afternoon, Abundant. How may I help you?
Hi, yes. I was wanting to see if there's any way y'all could help with a can of baby formula. I have a 2-month-old and I ran out last night, so she's gone all night and all day without anything to eat.
Unfortunately, the food pantry is only available on Sundays, and I don't know if we have any baby formula at the moment.
Okay. Is it something that you all could get and I could just pick it up or something?
Well, there's nobody at the food pantry.
Okay. You don't have a pastor that could get it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question. We don't have food products for babies. We only have for older people, like canned foods and noodles and stuff like that available.
Okay. I'm just curious though. Are you all a pro-life church?
You mean, if you like, I can go ahead and take your information, and you're more than welcome to ask a pastor those information.
Actually, no. I actually don't even have a baby. This is actually just a social experiment to see which churches would actually help feed a hungry baby that hasn't ate all night. She hung up. That's the first time ever. Oh my God. That was crazy. I've never had anybody hang up on me.
Okay, so let's summarize what's going on here. This young lady, who, according to my understanding, she does not claim to be a Christian. She just says she's spiritual. She's doing a supposed social experiment, quote unquote. And I say quote unquote because really this almost looks like she's just pranking them, and we're calling this a social experiment. However, just to summarize, she calls 40 to 50 churches in different states around the South, the southern region of the United States, with a lie, basically saying she's got a baby that's hungry, she needs formula. She's even got sound effects of a baby crying, not a real baby. She's got sound effects of a baby crying. And she calls these churches and asks for them to give her formula for a alleged or supposed baby that's not, she doesn't really have a baby. So this has gone viral on the internet. There are people who are berating or just really just bashing churches, and some of the people are just castigating all churches. All Christian churches, are bad and won't help people in need. You got some who are angered by this young lady to the point of calling her a witch. I don't know if I'd go that far. She is lying in this quote unquote social experiment. So she is a liar, which those that study the Bible, we know that's a sin. But let me give some remarks about what she did and about Christians and Christian churches and their helping of those less fortunate. Let me first start by saying all of my adult life, even before my adult life, as a minor, I was raised in a Christian home. Haven't always been a Christian, but raised in a Christian home, and grandparents who were Christians, great grandparents who were Christians. And part of what they did is not only sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ and inviting people to accept Christ in their life and to let him be the Lord of their life, but there was lots of activity that they did to help people as far as their physical need, especially those who are less fortunate economically. Me personally, not only as a minor, but coming into adulthood, doing ministry teaching, doing mission work, I founded holiness.com, a website back in the 90s. And under my own personal, I've given lots to ministries, but my own personal work and ministry, doing mission work, um, running holiness.com. I've given tens of thousands of dollars to help those that are less fortunate, and have actively taken part in mentoring and helping the physical needs, feeding and educating, supporting that with tens of thousands of dollars. And here's the thing though, having founded holiness.com back in the 90s, I reach people around the globe. And I'm not a pastor. I'm not a pastor of a mega church or a small church, but just the exposure I've gotten through holiness.com, I've gotten contacted by a hurricane, a flood of people that contact me. And I'm not going to, and I have not met every need of every person that's approached me. I've even been approached on the street. I recall one time in Charlotte, North Carolina, there was a big church conference here that my wife and I traveled to and attended. And sometimes people who are in need, they know when there are conferences of Christians. And I was stopped. My wife and I were stopped leaving the convention center by a lady, Caucasian lady, who claimed to have the baby at home, and also her baby daddy, who was at home. She wasn't married, but was living with the baby daddy. He was at home, the baby was home, and she's out panhandling on the street in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she wanted some money. My wife was very, very tenderhearted, and she was prepared to. Uh, she wanted to give money to this lady. Like I said, I've given tens of thousands of dollars to help people, but this one was one of multiples throughout my life that struck me a certain kind of way. Being a husband, being a father, and being very traditional in many respects. Let me just cut to the chase here. She's got a man, a baby daddy, that she's allowing to live with her. He won't marry her. He's not working. He's at home. There's multiple things wrong with the story that just struck me that I wasn't going to just give this lady some cash. I would expect a man, unless he's, totally disabled, that if there was a need to panhandle, that he's not going to have the baby daddy is not going to have a mama out on the streets asking for money. That's just the way I roll. I would expect, let's put aside the fact that they were just what we call shack, living together, and he chose not to, or she chose not to, or they chose not to marry for whatever reason. The fact that, putting that aside, they're not married. The fact that he's got the woman on the street panhandling and he's at home, I got a problem with that. With my wife, who's very tenderhearted, I couldn't really deal with this situation, but if my wife wasn't there, this might have been a teaching moment for me to teach her, because I'm a dad multiple times, and that dad spirit comes out in me to teach her he needs to be on the street hustling for money, because if he had been there on the street, I actually give work and have given work to the ex-drug addict, the ex-alcoholic, or sometimes maybe still an alcoholic, the person who is just, maybe not skilled. I was trying to this month assemble some fellas together that wanted to learn some skills, and I was willing to pay them. Um, I couldn't, from one of my areas that I try to, help young guys, and none of them were interested. Another contact, if I'm being vague because I don't want to call anybody out. Another contact in the community. No interest there. I finally did, engage a small crew to do some work. So, not saying everybody's lazy, not saying, everybody is even able to work physically, but I don't say just yes on the street to everybody and especially if they call. Well, let's back up a sec. She's in Kentucky. She's calling different states. I'm a Christian. I, associate, affiliate, support, work with different Christian operations. If somebody calls me, number one, because I worked in telecommunications, and I see an area code, number one, she's in Kentucky, so I don't think she has an area code on her phone number that is the same as mine. If I see an area code and I see it's somebody calling from Kentucky, I worked in telecommunications for decades. Number one, I'm right away. Okay, why is a single mom from Kentucky calling me for a can of baby formula uh, to bring it here to her, to FedEx it to her? Because I've been to Kentucky and I know somebody mentioned it's part of the Bible Belt. There's churches there. Why would she be calling cross state lines for me to send her? Uh, so I don't know if that's one of the things in some of the churches' mind. The second thing, somebody said the baby sounded fake. that she, I am, with all of my children, I was there from before day one and also in delivery room and even cutting the umbilical cord, changing diapers, helping my wife bottle feed. And the baby sounds did sound kind of fake to me. But let's not deal with that. Then the other thing you've got to understand, those of you that believe in the Spirit of God. I know there's maybe some atheists or non-believing people that maybe float onto my social media, but the Spirit of God sometimes will tell you, "Oh, this person is lying. She was lying." And so, in a few cases, that could be the case. There could be some churches that they're not responsive like they should be, but there's so many things wrong. And the other thing I got to say, okay, so let's say some of the churches should have responded better. The other thing I got to say, there were a few churches that did accept the challenge or whatever you want to call it, the experiment to help her. And then, she would reveal that, oh, no, I'm just conducting a social experiment. I don't know if you want to say it's a cultural thing with me, a black thing with me, or a man thing with me. I would have been angry if she had contacted me and I had felt inclined to help. And then she says, oh, no, I'm just testing churches. Whether it's a man thing or a black thing or maybe my community or people, I do not like when people jerk my feelings around, even if they try to justify and say, well, I lied because I'm doing a social experiment. I am not a happy camper when people jerk. My wife will tell you I don't even like a lot of these really syrupy, emotional movies that try to manipulate your feelings to, get you, become a popular movie. I just do not like people playing with my feelings. So that's another issue here. So these people, maybe let me see if I can end on this. These people who are bashing all Christians, all churches, blah 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 blah. I'd like to see uh, what they are personally doing. Irregardless of churches I give to, I personally support uh, outside the church as well, not just giving to the church and I'm done with it. These people who are bashing churches, number one, I presume maybe they're not really giving lots of money to the church, but what are they? Well, so what are they personally doing to help those that are less fortunate? Um, when I get off this social media thing, I've got right when I get done with this, I've got several $100s I'm going to drop on some university students that they're in a community that's very impoverished that I'm trying to help put through university. Um, and then probably tomorrow will be Sunday, I'll contribute to a church that I've been attending that does help various people that are in need. Excuse me. So, um, to the bastards who say, I do speak against certain things that churches do, but the bastards that are saying, oh, yeah, that's what's wrong with all churches. What are you doing? What have you done lately to help those less fortunate? And don't tell me, I'm not talking about you saw a guy on the street or a lady on the street, she's hungry and gave $1. No, I'm talking about doing some serious, helping people really, really make it. Not to say giving $1 is bad. I've done that dollar, a few dollars, whatever. I don't have a problem with helping people in that way. But I don't rely just on the churches and lip service about the churches and what the churches do, and then rely totally on the government, rely totally on the local church. As a Christian, or even a person who's flapping their gums about folks in need and what others aren't doing, what are you personally doing? All right, let's end on that note.